I know you are like me. You hear the word AI a lot, artificial intelligence, over and over again, talking about so many different ways in which it is now changing society and how it will change society in the future. Well, someone had passed along an article in the New York Times about AI, and it was from the perspective of a creating writing teacher and talking about how AI has impacted her students and the way in which she does her work. It was a very interesting article. I'm one of those people who were kind of thinking, AI is there, but it is not going to impact me in what I do. But I was just fooling myself. However, what really came to light for me yesterday when I was thinking about it, and I think it's always good to read up on a little bit about something and then really start to think about it. And it's amazing how if we allow our mind to start to think about things and ideas and extrapolations of ideas, we could come up with some conclusions. And then once we come up with some conclusions, we're developing this sense of what I would call truth. And then how do we handle some of these issues in our daily lives, in our work? Obviously, teaching in college used to be so much about understanding the discipline, the lingo of the discipline, how the discipline, and when I say the discipline, it's the subject matter you're studying, whether it's sociology, anthropology, psychology, political science. Those are disciplines within the academic hierarchy or structure of knowledge, knowledge creation, knowledge distribution, knowledge integration, synthesis, analysis. And when you're reading a textbook, if you were to go to one of those references in the back, you're going to see, for example, Kelly Welch wrote this book, Family Life Now, that I'm using for Social 102, Families and Intimate Relationships. But when you look at a lot of the research that and scholarly thinking on the subject matter, there's a reference, and in the back of the book you'll find the reference, and the reference could refer to a book that the author has written with an extensive list of references, or an article that they published in a journal with another extensive list of references. And then if you went to each of those references and went to the original source material, you would find there are references. So yes, academia builds upon itself, if you will, and along the way, what you do is new knowledge comes into play, or there are gaps in the knowledge, or maybe the knowledge is no longer, the knowledge or the ideas, the hypotheses, even the theories, but more along the hypotheses are no longer valid because of the ever-changing society. So then new research, new thinking has to happen, but it's always built upon what's already been done, even if what's already been done needs to be negated or validated. Now, in the case of AI, when I learned what AI was and kind of, how people, doing these searches and these AI tools, and it kind of pulls together and synthesizes everything that's been written, well, not everything, but, a lot of content that's been written is synthesis, integration, and spit out the answer. However, when I think about writing, obviously there's academic writing where you're pulling in research that's been done. You're putting different things together. You're drawing different conclusions that may have not been presented before. And for example, I actually still have a copy of my master's thesis. And when I tell you this is the only copy, it is a hard copy. And it's the only copy because I do not have the disc. It was it was like a floppy disk. That's what my thesis was on. At least it wasn't a typewriter, right? But I just wanted to show you kind of the list of references. And this is just a master's thesis. And I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half pages of references. Pretty thin. This is a pretty brief thesis compared to theses that are written. But as you already know, I like to see the value in writing with brevity. But again, in that master's program, that's really what I learned. Now, I also know that a dissertation, which is when you get a PhD, is like a master's thesis, but much, much longer. And you're going to be diving into everything, hopefully, as much as you can, that has ever been written on the subject matter. Now, in my particular case, I took two theories that have always been uh, discussed and posited, and I did a comparative analysis of the two, making the argument that they are saying very similar things. And that's it. It was theoretical comparison analysis, and then coming to the conclusion of what I would call theoretical coalition building. Now, of course, that is some academic language, right? It's academic language. Anything that we say, we can be informal and we can be formal. Academic language can be very formal, is very formal. This, when I teach these 100 level classes, we're not going to go right straight through into perfect academic language like someone would have in their thesis or in their dissertation. But we are going to begin to find ways to get there. And one way to get there, of course, is taking an idea, learning a little bit about it, the textbook, maybe some other resources. That's what the prompts are about. Think about it, allow the ideas to kind of integrate in your mind. And then you begin to write in a voice. And this is where your voice is unique. Your voice, even though it may be integrating a lot of different concepts and theories and ideas that someone else has presented, because of your unique experiences in life, position in society, um, academic knowledge, and overall intelligence and thinking about things, that all comes at your age, maybe all the intersectionalities of who we are, and that has influenced our perspective on life. That all comes into play. And then we begin to write. We bring all that in this nuanced way. And that is original, the development of original writing. It's not these prompts are not about you going in and reiterating what someone already said. It's about you taking these ideas and letting them mix up in your mind, right? And being able to write something different. So then, again, I'm going to get to the point where I pulled up some information because I wanted to say, okay, so specifically how, because I already knew AI has some issues because people are using it and they're not writing in their original tone, right? And anywhere you go, it doesn't matter. It's not, I'm not just referring to a classroom. I'm talking about business communications, people having AI write their breakup letters for them. It's ridiculous. But I found this list of potential downsides, and I kind of really talk extensively now about originality concerns. You're not writing things original, because what AI does is pull it all together, but they have not pulled your experience in, your particular viewpoint and way of looking at things. So we've got to think about ways in which we contribute. So maybe if you put a YouTube video out, even though it's unlisted, somehow in the ethos, those ideas go in there. That's at least my thinking. There's ethical implications because of plagiarism. There are people who are having AI write books for them, and I think that's very problematic. I think AI is a tool, but it is not something that you should use to do your thinking, to do your writing. That's where we talk about dependence on AI. Over reliance on AI could hinder the development of someone's own skills. How do you learn to write? Is making lots of mistakes, writing things that are incomprehensible, that need to be edited and reviewed and edited again and again to make sense. Maybe passing it along to other people. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Ask for clarity, for change. And the last I thought was really interesting is the lack of emotional intelligence, because AI lacks the ability to experience emotions and understand that human writers bring to their work. Even when you're writing, I think it's really quite the challenge and still possible to integrate some ideas related to emotional intelligence into your writing about things related to society, because we can talk about society as this giant thing and all these problems and challenges that we have, but ultimately it's individuals in their everyday lives that are experiencing these problems and suffering from them. So we have to make sure that we integrate emotional intelligence in anything that we write or do. So that was on my mind this morning, and as I think about AI more, it just really makes me want to write more, make mistakes, and edit my work. And even this piece right here, this kind of op-ed piece here, this op-ed video, to me is just a way for me to move along this continuum of understanding AI, how it can be used, where the problems are, and how I can communicate these ideas to other people.